Dash's Diary by TAW. The day began like any other. I woke in a familiar room with a familiar face snoozing by my side. Rarity's face. Her makeup was smeared and her hair looked closer to mine than her normal style. The cries of "Rainbow Dash, if you don't let go of my mane, I'll" flooded back into my mind quickly, followed by memories of her groaning and writhing. Rarity was weird like that. She pretended as if she didn't want it right up until it overwhelmed her, until she needed it. I didn't understand why she'd do that then, but I do now. I turned over and looked out of the window. We'd forgotten to close it last night, leaving the room cold and slightly damp. Thinking about it, the dampness may not have been to do with the window. I did mention Rarity gets overwhelmed, right? Anyway, Twilight Sparkle suggested I start a diary, and she left me one of her empty books to start one in. It seems like a good idea, so I'm going to do it. Who knows, maybe I can sell it once I'm retired from the Wonderbolts. Fleetfoot's going to do that, I think. I've seen some of the passages. It can't be that hard, right? So I sneaked out of the bed and closed the window on my way out. It wasn't that I didn't want to see Rarity, though she was always sort of chatty before she had her morning coffee. It was just time for my practice. It was almost dawn, and I could see the sun over the horizon if I flew high enough, so I figured I had a few hours before any pony else woke up and started to distract me. I needed to get the practice done now, because it was me and Pinkie's day to be together, and she never leaves me with enough energy to do anything at all, really. I'd complain, but it's so worth it. Twilight has some system worked out to give us all a fair amount of time with each other. I don't really understand it myself. All I know is that every day on my calendar has a set of stickers telling me who I get to screw silly. Why would I need to understand any more than that? Yesterday I had a few diamonds half covering the date. Today I had a set of balloons. I don't know what I have tomorrow, but it's pretty irrelevant now anyway. So there I was, soaring through the air with my wings spread wide and my face twisted into a grin after performing yet another awesome trick that no pony else got to see. It went really well. I got a lot of practice done, and when I finally hit the ground a few hours later, my wings were exhausted. I needed a nap, but it's the height of summer, and we don't have any clouds scheduled for like a week at least. I walked around a little looking for something comfortable, but finding somewhere to nap can be surprisingly hard. There's always the bench of Twilight's treehouse, but she can't even follow her own rules sometimes. If I had a bit for every time she's pulled me out and kissed me, I could afford the best cloud bed money can buy. Not that I'm complaining, of course, but it's tiring keeping that mare pinned down, and I don't have the energy. As I walked through town, I had my head held high, looking around for somewhere I could sleep. The early morning sun was shining straight into my eyes, so it should have been less of a surprise when I walked straight into the side of Sugarcube Corner. Of course, I thought. I'm sleeping with Pinkie today anyway. I may as well nap there too. I knocked on the door, but no pony was home. At least no pony was awake. It was still early, so that didn't set off any alarm bells. Pinkie always kept her windows unlocked, so I flew up and sneaked inside her room. It was messy, messier than usual anyway, and I almost tripped over a set of baby toys on my way to her bed. Pinkie wasn't in, but I knew she wouldn't mind. A quick glance at her calendar showed she'd been alone with Twilight last night. She was probably still there. Depending on Twilight Sparkle's mood, it was probably either her or Pinkie who needed the lie-in. There was a time when I thought Twi lifting that giant star bear thing back into the forest was the most impressive thing I would ever see. Then she took me into her bed when she was feeling aggressive. I saw stars that day too. I'm not sure even Pinkie could stand up to that. I drifted off to sleep, comfortable in Pinkie's bed. That's where all the problems started. "Hey, Dashy." Her voice was different, lower, and her intonations were in different places. That was the first thing I noticed, other than the enormous weight pinning me down. Had she and Twilight both decided to come and get me or something? I didn't know. My face was pushed into the pillow, and I couldn't turn over. Hey, Pinkie, ow, could you get off me? I thought she would. Pinkie is insatiable, but everything she does is for other ponies. I felt guilty when we first started dating. I wanted her so badly, and she only seemed to want to make me happy. I didn't know if it was what she wanted too. Not until she kissed me back for the first time. It was amazing, let me tell you. I don't care if it makes this diary adult only. People need to know. Pinkie is a fantastic kisser. It's not like other ponies. There's no hesitation or waiting to make sure you're ready. She just goes for it. Somehow she always knows exactly how hard you want it without even asking. If I'd had a bad day, Pinkie would know. My parents used to try and kiss bruises better when I got hurt, but no pony can do it like Pinkie. Nope. Again, her voice was different somehow, deeper, a little lower. It was still undeniably Pinkie, but it didn't sound quite right. She wasn't acting quite right either. What do you mean, nope? Pinkie, get off. I wasn't playing around. There wasn't any room for interpretation in my voice. It was hard and sharp. I hated speaking like that to friends. I only did it because I was worried about her. I swear. Her voice faltered. It was still low, but it wavered as if she wasn't sure what she was doing. Sorry, Dash. She got off. She didn't jump. She just stepped to the side. It felt like some pony had lifted a boulder off me. I hadn't even realized I could barely breathe. I don't know what came over me. I'm sorry. Hey, Pinkie, whoa! No wonder she sounded different. I'd try to write down exactly what I saw, but I'm not Twilight Sparkle. I can't describe things like she can. You're a... Yep. He stood there. He was Pinkie Pie. He had the mane. He had the right words. A quick look at his ass showed that he had the cutie mark. Most importantly, he had the eyes. They were unmistakably Pinkie Pie, and they seemed worried. I'm not ashamed to admit that I felt ashamed then. I'd shouted at her. She's Pinkie Pie. She always just wants to help. I'm a stallion now. Pinkie, you can't just be a stallion. It doesn't work like that. I was wrong, clearly. She stood there in front of me. She had everything from the chiseled jaw to a strong and muscular body. She looked exactly like a stallion would if they spent as much time bouncing around as Pinkie did. Her muscles were, well, I love Applejack's body. Love it. But she had nothing on Pinkie. Her legs looked like they could have torn me in half. Can too. Her hind legs were even better. I was lying under her sheets, so luckily she couldn't see what her body was doing to me. Ponies assume that just because I sleep with a load of mares, I don't like stallions, but that's not right. I couldn't ever break my friend's trust by going off with some stallion none of us knew, and none of us could ever agree on a suitable candidate. I was all for Big Mac, for example, but Applejack took issue with that. Don't know why. He's smoking. Applejack suggested Soren, but that's not going to happen. I don't want to be called that mare who slept her way into the Wonderbolts. But you're a mare, Pinkie. You don't have the parts to be a stallion. My face burned after saying that. She did have the parts. I could see them. He was taller than Pinkie was, and I was lying down. They were practically at head level. Her balls dangled down a little, and her cock was sheathed inside a fuzzy sack like any other stallion. If it hadn't been, the whole thing would have gone very differently. It's not that I was desperate for a stallion's touch, but, well, it was exactly that. The other girls didn't really get it, I don't think. My first time was back in Cloudsdale, before I'd even met them, save Fluttershy, and some of them had never even been with a stallion. Rarity said something about some scale, said me and her were around the middle, and most of our friends were more strongly attracted to mares. I ignored it. Really, I think she just read it in one of her magazines. Yeah, I do. She knew I knew. I'd spent the past several seconds looking under her. I knew she knew I knew because the tip of her length was starting to poke out of the end of her sheath. Twilight wanted to see what it was like. Did she like it? I was cautious asking. Twilight's magic was obviously responsible for this. If she liked it, then more of my friends might turn up looking like this. It wouldn't give me any reason to complain. It'd add some variety. Pinkie shrugged. I stared at the way his body moved. His muscles rippled under the surface. Even a lazy shrug was a show of more brute force than I'd ever seen. I'll ask her when she wakes up. You just left her there? That wasn't like Pinkie. I loved Pinkie's mornings after. She woke up just as early as me, only she knew how to cook. You haven't lived until you've spent the morning sandwiched between a pile of pancakes as big as your head and Pinkie Pie's tongue. She's absolutely incredible. It's hard not to get covered in syrup around her, though, but that's okay. She cleans it off herself. Yeah, I saw your cutie mark on her calendar, and I remembered it was your day, and... Her cock began to grow. It was sudden. One moment it was hardly there, and the next there was a surprise few inches of meat dangling between her legs. My eyes fought to keep away, but the details kept drawing me in. It was a dark pink, like her normal coat color, except strongly shadowed. It was gorgeous. I wanted to jump out of bed and knock her to the floor there and then. I wanted to make her scream my name. I wanted to blow her mind. I wanted that stallion in bed. And? I grinned. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have. She was clearly confused. A good friend would have denied him and talked him through it. I couldn't resist. And my heart went aflutter, and my new penis came out to see if you were there, and when you weren't, we were both sad. Twilight was still asleep, so I thought, okay, let's go find Dashie. I came home to wash up first, and here you were on my bed, and I just feel so hungry. You want a piece of me? I grinned wider. It never crossed my mind that it might not be a hunger she was used to. Truth be told, I couldn't think of anything like that. That foot-long stick of meat was hardening before my eyes, and it took everything I had to hold myself back. No, I need it. I want to press you down and take you right now. I don't want to make you happy. I want to make you scream. She said it like it scared her, not because she didn't want it, but because she couldn't be sure I wanted it. Gosh, did I? Just try it. I pushed the covers off and rolled over onto my hooves. Looking back, I wiggled to shake my tail around in front of him. I had made that mare mine 1,000 times. Now it was time to do it with a stallion. A moment's hesitation came from imagining how his lower voice would sound when he screamed my name, distracting me for almost long enough for him to jump. I spotted his shadow out of the corner of my eye and leapt, flapping my wings to dart away. He crashed into the bed inches behind me. Ugh, Dash, come back here. He kicked off, leaping towards me again. I'm fast, but so is Pinkie. Unless I have a few hundred feet to speed up and a clear sky, she could always keep up with me. He seemed different. I felt his hoof slip through the hairs on my tail as I narrowly avoided another dive. I hit the floor and rolled, just about managing to keep my footing so I could jump away again. Whoa, Pinkie, what's gotten into you? He didn't answer in words. I could see it in his eyes, though. They burned with desire, that fire that was missing back when I first met her. That look turned me on more than anything else he'd done. My hind legs felt red hot and sluggish, slowing down my jump enough for him to clip me on the hoof as I sailed past. It sent me into a spin, and by the time I managed to realign myself, it was too late. He slammed into me in midair and sent both of us tumbling to the ground. Get off! My voice was high-pitched and shaky. I struggled, but I could barely move. He pressed into my everything so hard I could only just breathe. Do you really want me to get off, Dashie? He snarled. It was a threat, or a warning, or a challenge. I'll get off you if you ask me again. Pinkie didn't lie. Ever. He seemed a little different, but Pinkie wouldn't lie about something like that, no matter how unused she was to lust. I trusted in her enough to know that she'd get off if I asked. I trailed off. I was pinned down. I couldn't make him mine like this. I wanted him to scream my name, but I couldn't do that unless it was me pinning him down. I kept struggling in my silence, trying to slither out from beneath him so I wouldn't have to ask. I didn't want him to get off. I wanted to throw him off. Thought so. He snarled at a whisper directly in my ear. It felt like he'd just blown fire at me. My ear burned with the anticipation of more. I struggled a little, but I felt something between us, something red, hot, and hard. Not completely solid like a tube of plastic or hard rubber, but hard all the same. My face began to burn as I realized what it was. What was pressing against me? His cock pushed into my coat, throbbing and pulsing between us. I stammered again, though this time I was fighting for words, not trying to assert dominance. His shaft rubbed against the end of my tail, mere inches away from my rear, which burned as hot as the sun at its peak on a red-hot summer day. Hotter, actually. If the day had been that hot, Cloudsdale itself would have melted. The thought of that rod slipping inside of me dominated my mind. He whispered again, straight into my ear. It's okay. Don't worry. You don't need to talk. Just nod. I nodded. I didn't even know what the question was, to be honest, but I nodded just because he told me to. I couldn't move, but right then, I didn't want to. I felt safe under there, as if nothing could hurt me. By Celestia, was I wrong? Good, he whispered, and lifted his body off of me. He still kept me pinned with a hoof, just one. Applejack needed both, and even then I could throw her off if I tried. But he was moving around behind me. I couldn't see what, but I could guess. Ah! A voice cried. It was mine, but I didn't recognize it. It was high-pitched and quickly stifled. He'd slapped me right on the cutie mark. Ow, that hurt. My voice was again high-pitched and shaky, not hard, not to be taken seriously. I said it because I thought I should, not because I was complaining. Pinkie knew that. He slapped me again. It stung, but that pain went away a fraction of a second later to be replaced with that same burning desire that radiated out of my behind. Get up. His voice was hard and sharp. He wasn't joking around. He lifted his hoof from my back. I was free. My wings retracted to rest on my back, because as much as I could have so easily escaped, my desires were elsewhere. I lifted my rear with my hind legs, leaving my head and neck resting against the floor. I could feel my tail. It was lifted so high it almost hurt. My eyes closed, and I started to breathe deeply, anticipating what was coming next. Another voice cried out, and again I only realized it was mine after a few moments. His shaft's head pressed against me, resting between my two lips. I was wet, soaking, and he was hot, smoking, and I couldn't wait for him to go deeper. Thankfully, I didn't have to, and he began to slide forward only a few seconds later. It felt like an eternity. It was almost effortless on my part. I could simply lie there and let him move forward. After a few inches, everything started to get fuzzy. I didn't bother opening my eyes because there was no point. For a moment, I was reminded of flight. When I'm in the air, I don't see air currents or turbulence, or pressure or wind. I feel it through my wings and in my ears. It's instinctual, and I just know what to do. I don't need my eyes to fly. I need my eyes to tell me where I'm going. Here was similar. I couldn't see Pinkie, but I could feel him. I could feel his heartbeat. I could feel him shifting slightly as he breathed. I could feel him balance himself on his hooves. This wasn't the first time Pinkie had me in this position. Her strap-on had seen more use than all but the most popular books in Twilight's library, but it was the first time I'd really loved it. Pinkie could always cheer me up by screwing me into unconsciousness after a bad day, but I would always scream at her, harder, faster, more, Pinkie, more, because it was the end that was important. I'd wake up in an endorphin haze, and nothing would really matter. This was different, better. I could squeeze against a tube of hard rubber, but there was no joy in that. Ugh, ugh. I squeezed. He moaned. He was only a few inches deep, and already I could hardly think of anything else. Maybe the squeezing had been a mistake. It only served to inspire him to go harder, and a second later I felt him speed up, plunging another few inches in a matter of seconds. I screamed as he penetrated deep inside me. Toys had gotten that deep before, and Twilight's magic had permeated my entire body, but nothing had ever felt like that. It twitched and pulsed against the deepest and most intimate parts of me, slipping against my slick inner walls, and momentarily extinguishing the raging fires of lust that burned within me. Only momentarily, though. A fraction of a second later, I needed that touch yet again. But Pinkie... I groaned, still not opening my eyes. Harder. My voice broke into a high-pitched whisper halfway through. I didn't want it harder so she could be over faster, but I needed it. Right then and there, I made the choice to abandon my desire to make him my stallion and become his mare. He thrust forward, spiking as deep as he could go. I felt his balls slap against the underside of my body, and an intense pain as he stretched me to my limits. I screamed. Not through the pain. The pain didn't matter, but through the pleasure that followed it. He was as deep as it was possible to go, and every inch of that vibrated and pulsed and moved with everything either of us did. We were still in Pinkie's bedroom, but at that moment, I couldn't have told you that. Pinkie, I screamed. Oh, Celestia, yes. I think those were my words, but I wouldn't bet my wings on it. I wouldn't bet my wings on anything in this diary entry. It's all a blur. Shortly afterwards, he started to pull out, leaving my insides feeling empty and cold. I groaned as his skin rubbed against mine, sending lightning strikes of pleasure through my body. Some of Twilight's books say lightning strikes, but they're never written by Pegasi. They don't really know what it feels like to have an actual lightning strike through your body. Enough energy to tear darkness in half, rip a tree in two, or strike a pony dead, all in the tip of your hooves. It's mind-blowing, and the closest description I can find for what every instant of what he did to me felt like. Pleasure crashed through me, like hitting a sonic rain boom several times a second. By the time I started to pay attention to anything again, he had found a rhythm, pumping in and out of me at what felt like several times a second. It was probably slower, but I didn't pay any attention to anything else. I felt his balls slap against my clit, and my mind blanked, replaced with a white sheet of pure joy. A few seconds afterwards, it happened again. I can't remember anything else for a while. Just that cycle of pure bliss slowly decaying to an all-consuming ecstasy that I could almost think through, only to be set back to pure bliss an instant later. I was so enamored with that it came as a surprise when I came. That had never happened before. I'd always had warning. I'd always groaned and gasped to give my partner a sign. I'd tried to open my mouth to apologize, but all that came out was another scream. My throat told me that I had given warning. I'd screamed myself hoarse without even realizing it. I didn't care. It felt too good. He pulled out, and I fell to the side. A single hoof or a wing beat could have stabilized me, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. Every time I tried to move my body, all that came out was a twitch and a groan. Writing it down like that makes it seem scary, but it wasn't. My brain couldn't imagine scary, or fear or concern, or anything bad. If it wasn't mind-melting joy, then it just wasn't there. I felt my own warm juices start to drip down my thigh. I'm not sure what I assumed it was dripping onto then, because I certainly don't have any recollection of Pinkie's bedroom floor. Hey, if you had asked my own name right then, I'd have probably groaned, "Pinkie Pie," at you. I came to sometime later. I'm not sure how long, but it was a while. I don't remember falling asleep, but when I finally opened my eyes, I found I'd been lifted onto Pinkie's bed. When I tried to move a limb, I again found it was impossible. A little experimentation revealed that Pinkie's leg was holding me tight. He was warm. I liked it. I managed to pull a foreleg out and wrapped it around his to squeeze him back. My head rested on his chest, and I could feel his breath on the top of my ears. "Hey," he whispered. "You awake yet?" "Yeah." My voice was still quiet, though that had as much to do with the soreness of my throat as anything else. "I'm sorry." Pinkie's voice was quiet, too, filled with remorse and regret. It sunk my heart. I didn't mean to." "Sorry? For what?" I didn't understand. The postcoital haze that kept my thoughts dull and happy didn't help. For this, Dash. I looked at you and I felt so hungry, like I needed you. I needed to do that. I needed to push you down and take you. I didn't even ask. I didn't even check you were in the mood. You never like being stuck. You only do it when you're feeling bad, and now I've probably ruined that too. Dash, I'm so sorry." My own grip on his arm was pulled away without a thought, as if I'd been barely holding on to him at all, even though I'd been grasping with all my strength. I'm an athlete, but I had never trained for raw power. My head found its way to his shoulder, as I draped myself over him once more, resting my legs over his body. "Don't be sorry, Pinkie. That was amazing." "That doesn't make it okay, Dash. I didn't care whether you'd like this best or something else. I just treated you like a piece of meat. Something I could just hold down and rut." The words sent another flush of heat between my legs. Something about some pony who loved me more than anything else in the world, desiring my body so much she lost control. Well, who wouldn't be a little turned on at least? "Pinkie, I am." My reply was short and hard, and completely serious. I probably could have come up with something better with a little more thought, but I was in no mood for thinking. "I know you love me. Nothing will ever change that. And I love you. If you want to throw me against the wall and make me scream your name, then do it. Don't ask. Don't wait and see. Just do it. No matter what you do to me, you'll never make me as happy as seeing you happy does." "Really?" As if I'd lie about that. "Really." I squeezed, pulling myself on top of him and nuzzling into the side of his neck. "I'll be your mare any day, Pinkie." "Only if I get to be your stallion." He smiled back, looking up at me gingerly, raising a hoof to stroke my cheek. No matter what he looked like on the outside, it was still Pinkie on the inside. Even if he had to deal with both his body and desires being stronger than usual, it was still just Pinkie Pie, the mare I loved. Forever. Or until you change back, anyway. A realization dawned that Pinkie wouldn't be a stallion forever, but I didn't mind too much. Both forms were sexy. And shouldn't any mare please their stallion? I grinned again, looking down at her. She was still erect, and I had to wonder if she had stopped as soon as I had climaxed. His length was wet, but I couldn't spot even a single strand of cum. I did please you, right? Pinkie looked guilty. I couldn't. You looked so helpless afterwards that I just couldn't. I grinned. Then I still have work to do. Come on, roll over. Don't make me sprain something pushing you. That was a joke, but I couldn't help wondering whether I even could push him over. The mountain of muscle under me was as gorgeous as he was exceedingly strong. Through a mix of guiding, pushes, and tickles, I managed to get Pinkie to lie on his back and spread his hind legs. I gave him a quick kiss, just as good as ever, and crawled down. He was huge. I could rest my entire body on him, and he wouldn't even care. That chest would have solved my napping problem easily. His two hind legs could have crushed me like a vice, but I felt no hesitation crawling between them until my hind legs rested against the bed, and the tip of his shaft was level with my mouth. He gasped as I kissed the tip. He was still incredibly sensitive and almost ready to burst. My lips wrapped around the head and I started to lick. Far from the fruit flavors of Pinkie's artificial attachments, the real thing was hot, wet, and salty. I loved it. A groan escaped my lips as I felt my rear begin to dampen once again. His mouth opened to grunt as I squeezed him between my lips, craning my neck to look up and stare into those gorgeous eyes yet again. He looked down at me with a mixture of Pinkie's undying love and affection and his newfound boundless lust. Celestia was it sexy. Our eye contact didn't break as I pushed myself further down, taking as much of his length into my mouth as I could before pulling back up. My tongue lashed against him every inch of the way, driving him to grunts and moans, and twisting his face in pleasure. Though he tried his very best to not break eye contact, it was cute. Gah, Dash, He grunted, arching his back. He was trying to warn me, but he didn't need to. His shaft throbbed deeper, and his body radiated a burning heat. He was about to come, and we both knew it. Gah, Rainbow Dash! He screamed into the air. I'd made him my stallion, but I didn't care. He'd been my stallion ever since he made me his mare. That's how it worked, right? I'm his, he's mine, even if we both share. His cum splattered against the back of my neck a fraction of a second later. I gagged. It was salty and thick, and there was too much of it to swallow. My throat swallowed as fast as it could, but the sheer volume overwhelmed me, and cum spilled out over his stomach and rolled down my chest. I coughed, spluttered, and eventually caught my breath, only to look up and see him staring back down at me. He was breathing heavily, and his head was covered in a light layer of sweat, and though his face was held loosely with the expression of somebody still in the afterglow, but trying to be worried anyway, his eyes told me the real story. He stared down with true concern. Are you all right? Yeah, you're just a bit too much for me, that's all. He laughed, not like Pinkie's giggle, but a low-pitched, full-bodied laugh. I never thought I'd hear you say that, Dash. Pfft. Yeah, laugh it up, big guy, I'll show you. He opened his forelegs wide, allowing me to crawl back up his body and lie on his chest. He wrapped his forelegs around me so tight I could hardly breathe, but I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. My lips pecked against his jaw, and I relaxed into his grip. Still a little too tired to really want to do anything, and with an aching throat. That was a good rutting. "Hang on," I said, thinking back to what he said earlier. "You were holding back? Hey, the moment you're ready, we're going again." He only laughed. I could take it. I felt confident of that. So here I am now. That's what happened today, and now I'm laying in Ponyville General Hospital, writing with this quill in my teeth. My teeth are just about the only thing in my body that doesn't ache right now. Twilight left a few hours back to give me time to write, but Pinkie, well, he left a few minutes ago, said he was bringing back pancakes. He's so worth it.